Okay, hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about changing fractions into decimal numbers. You might remember fractions and decimals are really the same thing, they're just written differently. Sort of like printing in cursive. They look different, but they can say the same thing. So there's two things you need to remember in order to do this, and here's the first one. You need to remember the story of the cowgirl and the horse. You might remember the cowgirl rides out all day herding cattle or chasing bad guys. I don't know what she does, but she rides on a horse, and that's just like a fraction. Right? The cowgirl is like a numerator, and the horse is like the denominator. Cowgirl goes on top, the horse goes on the bottom. Now, you might remember the rest of the story, and that's that at night, when they're done doing their job, the cowgirl sleeps in a nice, warm house, and the horse sleeps outside under the moonlight, which isn't so bad. That's like a fraction, and that when we want to simplify a fraction, usually we do it with improper fractions, the numerator goes inside the house. We call that the division house. Really, it's the long division sign. But the numerator goes inside, just like the cowgirl, and the horse goes outside. And that's how we can solve these division problems, or how we can turn a fraction into a division problem. The other thing you need to know is that all whole numbers have decimal places. They're usually just hidden. We don't write the decimal place after the ones place. We should, but we usually don't. We keep it hidden. But whenever we need it, we can pull that curtain back, and whoa, there is the decimal. It's right there. And pull the curtain back again, and guess what's back there? Another place value. That's the 10th place. And keep pulling the curtain back, what do you see? The 100th place, and the 1000th place, and the 10,000th place. And we could keep going. All those empty place values are always sitting there, just waiting. And if you need them, you can just pull the curtain back and use them. Now, this number still equals 3, but it looks different. All its hidden place values are showing, but it still equals 3. It's 3 and 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, 0 thousandths, and so on. All right, if you can remember those two things, you'll be set. Let's do a problem together. Let's take one that we know, right? Like if I showed you the fraction 1/2 and then asked you to convert it to a decimal, you'd probably say, oh, well, I already know that equals 5/10, 5.5. That's half, right? Well, let's see how that happens. What we're going to do is go to the house, the cowgirl is going to go inside, and the horse is going to go outside. And now if I try and do this division problem, most of us will say, no, we can't. I can't take any copies of 2 or any groups of 2 out of 1. There's not enough room. But what if we decide to write 1 like this? We're going to pull the curtain back, and I'm going to show its first place value. Yeah? And now, remember, we have to keep our numbers lined up here. So this is the ones place, and this is the 10th place in my answer also. So we have to make sure that decimal pops up to the roof. Okay? Pop, pop, pop. That decimal needs to go straight up. There's the arrow. Okay? And now I'm going to say, oh, how many groups of 2 can I get out of 10? I'm just going to pretend it's 10. And the answer is 5. I can get 5 groups of 2 out of 10. And I'm going to subtract those 5 groups of 2. And I have a remainder of 0. And so there's our answer. It turns out that it was 5/10. 1/2 changes into 5/10. Okay. Let's look at another one. Let's take another fraction that we know is 1/2. Let's do something like 4/8. You know 4/8 equals 1/2. So let's see what happens when we put it in a decimal form. Right? We're going to go to the house, put the decimal inside the cowgirl inside the house. The horse goes outside the house. And again, if I ask you how many groups of 8 can I take out of 4, you would say 0. 0 groups of 8 can come out of 4. So what we're going to do is we are going to show some more decimal places. We're going to pull that curtain back. Now remember, if I show these places, I need to make sure I have a space for them up above. So there's my decimal up above. There's my ones place. There's my 10th place. Now let's think of it as 40. How many groups of 8 can come out of 40? Well, 5 groups of 8 can come out of 40, and our remainder is 0. So 4/8, it turns out, also equals 5/10, which makes sense because we know 4/8 is half, and this is the decimal way of writing half. Okay? Okay, let's do one more. And this time we'll do one that's not half. Let's take some other fractions like 3/4. How would that work? Well, let's put 3 in the house, and let's put 4 outside the house. It's a sloppy house, but there it is. I can get 0 groups of 4 out of 3. So I need more place values. Let me see. I'm going to just pull the curtain back, show another place value, make sure I have room for it up on top. In fact, sometimes I have to draw your house out a little bit longer. How many groups of 4 can come out of 30? Well, let's see. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 8 is 32. That's too many. So it looks like we can only get 7 groups of 4 out. And now we have, let's see, it looks like 10 minus 8. It looks like we have a remainder. But here's the thing with decimals. We can just keep going. I'm going to pull that curtain back again. Right? And I'm going to make sure I have some space up here for my answer, for the 100th place. And I'm going to fill in all the zeros, right? I'm going to make sure I have the 100th place all the way down. Okay, how many groups of 4 can go into 20? The answer is 5. 5 groups of 4 make 20. And now I've solved my answer. I've solved this fraction. 3/4 equals 0.75, or 75 hundredths. So when you run out of spaces, you can just keep pulling the curtain back and just keep adding zeros. All right. That's how we're going to solve these problems, how we're going to change how we're going to change fractions to decimals. And this is a really important skill. So it involves division, it involves multiplication, and most importantly, it's going to give you the opportunity to write everything as a decimal, which is very, very important. All right, thanks for listening.